Hello, and welcome to another episode of Snail Mail with Smokey. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you're at. On today's episode, I want to share with you some information about an image that's located on this stamp. Well, you're going to have to get a little bit closer to see it. No, a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. There it is. That's the Statue of Freedom. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, some history. The United States Capitol, which is located in Washington, D.C., is a symbol of the American people and of our government. It's also the meeting place of our nation's legislature, the United States Congress. Although the Capitol is a working office building, it is also the place where visitors from around the world come to learn about American democracy. Our first president, President George Washington, laid the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol in the building's southeast corner on September the 18th, 1793. In November 1800, Congress, along with the Library of Congress and the Supreme Court, moved into the newly completed North Wing. The South Wing was completed by 1807, and what is now the center portion of the Capitol was completed in 1826. As our country expanded, more states came into the Union, and more representatives and senators arrived at the Capitol to represent these new states and their constituents. Beginning in the 1850s, the Capitol had to grow in order to make room for new representatives and senators. Now, the first major construction project extended both wings and enlarged the Capitol dome. A monumental statue for the top of the nation's Capitol was part of architect Thomas U. Walter's original design for a new cast iron dome, which was authorized by Congress in 1855. Construction superintendent Captain Montgomery Meigs, who was overseeing the artistic decoration of the Capitol extensions, had already engaged American sculptor Thomas Crawford to create other sculptures for the building, including the Senate pediment. He also had Crawford make models for the two bronze doors for the figures of justice and history over the Senate door. Born in New York City, Crawford had established a studio in Rome. His portrait statues and groups of classical and historic figures had earned him a reputation as both a talented and prolific artist. After several preliminary designs, Crawford executed the full-size clay model in his studio in Rome. It was then cast in plaster in 5 major sections. However, he died suddenly in 1857 before the model left his studio. His widow shipped the model packed into 6 crates in a small sailing vessel in the spring of 1858. During the voyage, the ship began to leak and stopped in Gibraltar for repairs. After leaving Gibraltar, the ship began leaking again to the point that it could go no further than Bermuda. While in Bermuda, the crates were left in storage until other transportation could be arranged. Half of the crates arrived in New York in December, but all the sections were not in Washington until late March 1859. Beginning in 1860, the statue was cast in 5 main sections by Clark Mills, whose bronze factory was located on the outskirts of Washington. Work was halted in 1861 because of the American Civil War, but by the end of 1862, the statue was finished and temporarily displayed on the Capitol grounds. The cost of the statue was $23,796.82. That is roughly $822,000 in today's money. Late in 1863, construction of the dome was sufficiently advanced for the installation of the statue, which was hoisted in sections and assembled atop the cast iron pedestal. The final section, the figure's head and shoulders, was raised on December 2nd, 1863, to a salute of 35 guns answered by the guns of the 12 forts around Washington. The crowning feature of the dome of the U.S. Capitol stands 19 feet 6 inches tall and weighs approximately 15,000 pounds. The Statue of Freedom, as it's called, is a classical female figure with long flowing hair wearing a helmet with a crest composed of an eagle's head and feathers. She wears a classical dress secured with a brooch inscribed U.S. Over it is draped a heavy, flowing, tunic-like robe fringed with fur and decorative balls. Her right hand rests upon the hilt of a sheathed sword wrapped in a scarf. In her left hand, she holds a laurel wreath of victory and the shield of the United States with 13 stripes. The helmet is encircled by 9 stars. 10 bronze points tipped with platinum are attached to her headdress, shoulders, and shield for protection from lightning. She stands on a cast iron pedestal topped with a globe encircled with the motto E pluribus unum, which is Latin for out of many one, a phrase that appears on the Great Seal of the United States as well as much of our currency. It reminds us that one nation was created from 13 colonies. The pedestal of this statue is 18.5 feet high and almost doubles the total height. The crest of the headdress rises 288 feet above the east front plaza. The Statue of Freedom's crested helmet and sword suggests that she is prepared to protect her nation. The Statue of Freedom has appeared on several U.S. postage stamps, including this stamp that was issued on March 20th, 1923. It is Scott number 573 and has a value of $5. The head of the Statue of Freedom is in a bright blue, while the outside frame is a vivid carmine color. Although this stamp is easily found for sale, its value can differ dramatically from around $10 or less, in some cases, to hundreds of dollars for mint, well-centered specimens. The stamp in my collection was purchased for just a bit above the $10 mark and suits my needs for my collection just fine. On April 20th, 1950, the U.S. Postal Service released this 3-cent stamp featuring the Statue of Freedom in honor of its 150th anniversary. This is Scott number 989. This commemorative stamp is printed in bright blue and measures 25 by 40 millimeters. This attractive stamp is very common and can be picked up in mint condition for just a few cents. As part of the same series, Scott 992 was issued on November 22nd, 1950. This stamp measures 40 by 25 millimeters and is printed in a bright red violet color. Although not the focus of this 3-cent stamp, the Statue of Freedom can be seen adorning the top of the U.S. Capitol dome. This stamp is also easily obtained from online stamp dealers for pennies. On June 27, 2018, the U.S. Postal Service issued a stamp of 3 high-denomination stamps featuring an illustration of the Statue of Freedom. The $1, $2, and $5 stamps are Scott numbers 5295, 5296, and 5297, respectively. The stamps, designed by art director Greg Breeding, offers a modern take on the vintage patriotic stamp art for use on packages, large envelopes, and other mailings. The artwork is based on the engraved vignette that was originally created for the 1923 $5 Head of Freedom statue stamp that we looked at a few minutes ago. The new stamp design is transferred to paper by an engraving plate. The illustration is emerald green on the $1 stamp, indigo blue on the $2 stamp, and brick red on the $5 stamp. The $2 and $5 Statue of Freedom stamps were replaced by floral geometry stamps in June of 2022, but thankfully, the United States Postal Service is still offering the $1 Statue of Freedom stamp for purchase both on their online store and as well at your local post office. I hope that you've enjoyed this video on the history of the Statue of Freedom and the influence that it's had on American philately. And if you have, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Also, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.